So, hello everyone, it's the Cricket Connoisseur here, and welcome to the England versus Pakistan T20 International Series preview show. On today's show, I'm joined once more by host of the 22 Yards podcast, Joe Nuttall. And in this show, we're going to be covering all of the bases of the upcoming three-match T20 International Series between England and Pakistan, which is all set to get underway at Emirates Old Trafford on Friday, the 28th of August. So first things first, Joe, thank you very much for coming on to the show today, mate. How excited are you for this series to finally begin?
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited. It's been a long time since England have played a home sort of like series in T20 cricket. Obviously, there's been one-off games, but I don't really remember the last time there was a proper 3 or 4 or 5 match series or whatever at home in T20 cricket. So that's a really exciting thing for the whole country to be able to see, because I don't think there's enough international T20 played over here. And obviously, it's a shame there's no fans there, but still, it's good to be able to have a series over here again in England.
Yeah, 100%. When you think of the last, one that wasn't a one-off game, it was 2018. It was the India series, which we lost 2-1, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah, we lost series deciding in Bristol. I was there for that to watch Rohit Sharma get 100. But yeah, it has been a while. We don't see enough T20 international cricket here. Obviously, it's a shame that there are no fans, and in particular the Pakistan fans, because they bring the noise, the vibrance, the atmosphere.
Great atmosphere, yeah.
Exactly. But I still think it's going to be a great series. Two pretty good teams as well, and we'll talk about those right now then, Joe. So looking at the England squad, for those who don't know, we've got Owen Morgan captaining, Moeen Ali, Johnny Bairstow, Tom Banton, Sam Billings, Tom Curran, Joe Denley, Lewis Gregory, Chris Jordan, Saqib Mahmood, Dawid Malan, Adil Rashid, David Willey, and then we have the 3 reserve players.
Yeah.
No Jason Roy, basically. So that's the big news out today. Jason Roy has been ruled out of the series with a side strain, unfortunately, which means that we're likely to see a different opening combination. So, Joe, talking of this England team without Jason Roy, what would your 11 be for this first game at Old Trafford?
Firstly, the loss of Jason Roy is massive. That Roy and Bairstow partnership at the top of the order in all forms of white ball cricket is just destructive. So that's a massive loss. I think we will get to see Tom Banton get a chance once more at the top of the order, as he did out in New Zealand for a little bit. So I think probably be Roy and Bairstow opening the batting. Now, I would like to see Liam Livingstone bat at 3, because I assume he will come in, Jason Roy being a reserve. However, I think it will probably be Dawid Malan at number 3, with Liam Livingstone at number 4. I think Owen Morgan will go 5, Sam Billings at 6, Moeen Ali at 7, David Willey at 8, Jordan at 9, Rashid at 10, and then it's a toss-up for me between Mahmood and Curran. Not that I don't, I absolutely love Tom Curran, but I think I'm just going to go with Saqib Mahmood. Being a Lancashire fan, I want as many Lancashire players to play for England, as I'm sure you would for Warwickshire. So, of course, I'm going to go for Saqib Mahmood in there, but it could easily be Tom Curran.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I understand that completely. So to give my 11, not too dissimilar, but there are a couple of position changes, for example. So I've gone Banton opening with Bairstow, Malan at 3, Morgan at 4, Livingston at 5, Billings at 6, Moeen Ali at 7, David Willey at 8, Tom Curran at 9, Chris Jordan at 10, and Adil Rashid at 11. So again, slightly different, but either way, very strong lineup, I think, for England.
Yeah,
100%. And in there, who do you think is going to be the real key players then for England in this series? Let's say a batsman and a bowler, for example.
For me, the key batter in there is definitely Joe Bairstow. We've seen him in white ball cricket over the last few years just totally thrive at the top of the order. He's just a formidable opening batter. In the IPL as well, he's done brilliantly. So again, different formats, completely different conditions, and he's done it there. For me, he sets the tone. He's just a brilliant player. Obviously, as we've mentioned, missing Jason Roy, which will be a bit of a blow for him and a bit of a shame for him. But as you know, just a batter on his own, he's just a brilliant player and definitely sets the tone and is the key for England. And with the ball, I think it's probably Chris Jordan. Obviously just come back from that injury, had an operation, so maybe they actually save him. Maybe save him for like a decider and don't want to risk him in the third T20. Maybe they just give him a rest, but most likely he will play, and he's just brilliant at the desk, brilliant at the start with the new ball, and brilliant in the middle overs. So there's nothing you really can't do with the ball. So his slower ball is brilliant, and for me, Chris Jordan is the key with the ball for England.
Yeah, 100%. Chris Jordan, great choice. Also, such a brilliant fielder. We saw it in the Big Bash. We
Yeah,
see it in the
exactly.
T20 Blast, IPL. He's done it all around the world. He's done it on plenty of occasions for England as well. So, yes, I'd agree with you with Chris Jordan. I just wanted to mention Dad Milan because for the past year, he's just been growing and growing and really kind of increasing his presence on the international stage, I feel. So he's
Yeah,
currently ranked as the 6th highest batsman in T20 international cricket. And the thing that really kind of stands out for me with Dawid Malan, he would have played quite a few of these bowlers. So he played Shaheen in the PSL when he was playing for Islamabad United. And in that tournament, he was absolutely sensational. 4 innings, 131 runs, average of 43.66 and a strike rate of 142.39. Pair that with the fact that he was the 3rd highest scorer in the T20 Blast last year, Dawid Malan should get some runs in this series. And not only
yeah,
that, I just think I've already mentioned this. He's played these bowlers before. He's going to know the tricks of the likes of Harris Ralph, Shaheen Afridi, Mohamed Hasnain, Mohamed Amir. So I imagine Dawid Malan will be an absolutely vital asset for England in this T20 series. And then moving on to Pakistan, Joe, let's talk about their 11. Again, a pretty interesting squad. I'll just quickly read out the names of the Pakistan squad touring England. So we've got Babar Azam as captain, Fakhar Zaman, Haider Ali, Harris Ralph, Iftikhar Ahmed, Imad Wasim, Kushdil Shah, Mohammad Hafiz, Mohammad Hasnain, Mohammad Rizwan, Mohammad Amir, Naseem Shah, Sarfraz Ahmed, Shadab Khan, Shaheen Shah Afridi, Shoaib Malik, and Wahab Riaz. So, Joe, what would your 11 be for the first T20 international match from that particular squad?
I found it quite difficult actually to balance out this 11. For me, there's that seam bowling type, that seam bowling unit. I say there's probably 6 seamers there who I look at, and any of them could play. Just off the back of how good they are and their ability. So I actually found it quite difficult to balance this squad. And I've actually gone with 4 seamers. So I've gone with Babar Azam, of course, opening the batting, alongside Fakhar Zaman. Then I've gone for some experience at 3 and 4, Mohammad Hafiz and Shoaib Malik. I think both of them will play just for that experience. And then Mohammad Rizwan, who is in great form with bat and gloves, to take the gloves at number 5. And then this is where you could argue my team I've selected doesn't bat very deep. I've actually gone with Imad Wasim and Shadab Khan next as number 6 and 7. And then the bowling attack, again, any of these 6 seamers could play, but I've actually gone with Mohammad Amir, Shaheen Shah Afridi, Harris Ralph, and Mohammad Hasnain. Now, so that means for me, Wahab Riaz and Naseem Shah don't get in, but they'll no doubt play at some point. And I think the only one that I'm a little bit unsure will play is Shaheen Shah Afridi, of course, off the back of 3 tests. But I just think for me, he's the kind of person who has to play. He's that good. So for me, that's Pakistan's lineup.
Yeah, I've got some changes, but I agree with you about Shaheen Shah Afridi and Naseem Shah. Will they be looking to overexert them? I doubt it. So I doubt that Afridi or Shah will play in this first game. But in terms of my 11, I've gone Babar Azam, opening with Fakhar Zaman, Mohammad Hafiz at 3, Shoaib Malik at 4. A really, really interesting choice at 5. I would absolutely love to see this guy, Haider Ali. Now, he was absolutely sensational on the PSL for the Peshawar Zalmi. We'll talk about some stats from him later. But my goodness, I'd love to see him finally get a chance. He's only 19, dynamic, fantastic strike rate. I think he'd be a great addition to their batting lineup. Then at 6, I've said the inform man, Mohammad Rizwan. He'll have the gloves, obviously, as well. Imad Wasim at 7, Shadab Khan at 8, 9, Mohammad Amir, 10, Harris Ralph, and 11, Mohammad Hasnain. So that's how I've gone about my 11. Joe, out of that lineup, I suppose, who do you think are going to be the real key players for Pakistan in this series?
Well, of course, Babar Azam is the key player. But aside from him, I'll probably say with the bat, Mohammad Rizwan, and also with the gloves as well, of course. Mohammad Rizwan is vital because, we saw how he is in the Test series. He scored some wonderful knocks. Played well out in Australia in the Tests last winter for us, last summer for them. And for me, he's just a brilliant, dynamic player, and I think he's definitely going to be a key batter. And also his wicket-keeping ability could stand up to Mohammad Abbas in the Test series, which isn't easy at all. And I think his wicket-keeping ability is just shone through. And he's a very, very good player. And I think with the ball, I think Harris Ralph is going to have a massive part to play in this series. When I watched him in the Big Bash, which is the first time I'd seen like bits of him, but when I watched him in the Big Bash for the Melbourne Stars, that was the first time I'd really, really watched him really closely. And I remember that hat-trick that he took, who I think it was against the Sydney Thunder.
It was, yeah, my team.
Unfortunately for you.
Yeah.
And yeah, he just wowed me. He was just a phenomenal bowler. Someone who, again, you might say has got that X factor, and you can just tell he loves bowling, and that's great. And he bowls quick as well, and that's great for Pakistan. That's a great, asset to have in their squad. So I think he's going to have a massive part to play in this series.
Yep, and I completely concur with that suggestion. I've also gone Haris Ralph as their key bowler. Now, for those who don't know, maybe England fans probably won't know who this guy is, but he's a 26-year-old seamer, been in the PSL since, I believe, PSL 4 or PSL 3, actually, no, 2018 with the calendar, sorry. And he regularly bowls, as you mentioned, high 140s, even 150 plus kilometres an hour, which is absolutely sensational to watch. You've mentioned the Big Bash. That was kind of his announcement on the global stage, I think.
Yeah.
20 wickets for the Melbourne Stars, joint fourth leading wicket taker in the tournament. You've mentioned the hat-trick at the MCG against the Thunder, and he averaged 13.35. He is a sensational talent. The only thing that I will say with Haris Ralph, again, I mentioned this with Henry Brooks in our T20 preview show. Sometimes he does go searching for a wicket a bit too much against set batsmen. And again, in the PSL this year, he was very, very expensive for the Calendars, had an economy rate of 10.77. So again, just needs to rein it in a little bit, have a bit more control against a very, very strong English batting lineup. But again, a great pick, really, really is. And I imagine that he's going to be an absolute nightmare for the English batsmen throughout this entire series. And then with the batsmen, obviously Babar Azam, let's just quickly touch on him. He's averaging 50.72 in his T20 international career. In the last year, he's averaged 44. He's an incredible talent. I think everyone knows Babar Azam's talent. So I'm going to choose Hyder Ali. Now, Hyder Ali was vice-captain of Pakistan in the Under-19 World Cup in South Africa this year. And then in the PSL, this was where he really kind of announced himself to me. Played 9 matches for the Peshawar Zalmi, scored 239 runs, their joint second leading run scorer. Scored a magnificent 69 against the Calendars in Lahore, had a strike of 158.27. And the thing that really stands out to me here, he hit 14 sixes in those innings, which is the most on his entire team. Now, his team had Cameron Akmal, it had Liam Livingston, it had these really, really dynamic, powerful big hitters. And yet he was the leading six scorer. So I want to see him play. I really do. I like Hyder Ali a lot. He's got great technique. We've seen the strike rate. He can really just kick on towards the last stages of an innings. And yeah, I think that he could be a real key asset for Pakistan if they choose to use him. 100%. So then, Joe, moving on to, well, I suppose a key matchup really in this series. What do you think is going to be the key battle that we're going to watch in this T20 international series?
It probably is the England attack, the opening pair against Babar Azam,
Yes.
for me. And if I had to pinpoint one bowler, again, it would be Chris Jordan. I just feel like he is the person who is going to get Babar Azam out because he's the most experienced. And you could argue that's David Willey, but I would probably say it's Chris Jordan's the most experienced. And some of the tricks he possesses, he disguises his slow ball well, and he bowls a good Yorker. So I would probably say that is going to be the most important matchup in the series for me, especially because Babar Azam, off the back of a not out in the Test match, what did he get, like 60 odd not out, something like that?
Yeah.
So it was, that was a really, really classy innings as usual, and I just think that's going to be such a vital matchup.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And when you think of the T20 last year at Fire Gardens, he scored 65. So
yeah, exactly.
Getting Babar Azam early, it's not going to be an easy task. But as you mentioned, Chris Jordan, very wily character, got some great variations in his speed. And again, it's going to be very interesting to see how England actually combat Babar Azam. But yeah, that's going to be absolutely key throughout this series to England's success. And then in terms of some predictions now, Joe, I suppose, who do you think is going to be the leading run scorer? It could be anyone. Two very, very strong, especially top orders, I think. Who do you think is really going to step up and become the leading run scorer in this series?
Well, there's two people. Of course, Babar Azam is one that immediately springs to mind. But I think I'm going to go for someone a little bit different because it's kind of getting a bit boring. Just keep bringing his name up. So I'm going to back Johnny Bairstow to finish leading run scorer. I think, as I say, he's just England's catalyst at the top of the order. He's such a powerful hitter. And I just completely back Johnny. And every single time he goes out to bat in, one day or T20 international cricket, I just feel like he's going to get runs. And if he doesn't get runs, it's, such a disappointment. and it's like again one of them people who for me I would pay to watch, you know, and for me I genuinely believe that he has the ability to finish as leading run scorer.
Yeah, I'm going to be cliche. I'm going to go Babar Azam.
Yeah.
I just
See,
think
again, Babar Azam is up there, but
yeah,
I just think I'd vary it up a little bit.
he's the number one T20I
Yeah.
batsman for a reason. So you've got to go
Yeah.
Babar. And maybe for England, Dawid Milan. I think he could definitely
Yeah.
score a few runs. He's in fantastic form. Was brilliant in the
Yeah.
New Zealand series, for example. So yeah, I think those will be up there for the leading run scorers. And in terms with the ball, this was more interesting for me actually. Who do you think is going to be the leading wicket taker?
That's a tricky one because there's so many talented bowlers in both sides, and to be honest, it's probably going to have to be a Pakistan player. And again, I just look towards Harris Rauf. I just think, like you say, like he announced himself on the sort of global scene in the Big Bash, and I feel like he's due a quality series now to really cement his place in the Pakistan. Maybe even put his name forward for one day international cricket as well, for Pakistan. And I feel like because as I mentioned, you can tell how much he loves bowling, and he just brings a smile to the field, and he just always plays with a smile on his face. And I feel like that will contribute to him having a good series with the ball, and if he enjoys it even more, then he's more likely to take wickets. So I'm going to back Harris Rauf again. Maybe a bit of a left field choice, but again, I'm going to back Harris Rauf.
No, I'd agree. I think he's going to be up there. Personally, I've just gone Tom Curran because, as you said, with Pakistan, they've got so many seam options. I imagine they'll just rotate them. So
Yeah.
again, it will be difficult for someone to really kind of just cement that leading wicket
Again,
taker
though,
spot.
Harris Rauf hasn't played much cricket, so he's going to be fresh.
Good point.
Think of Shaheen Shah Afridi, Naseem Shah. They've played 3 tests. Well, the second one they didn't really bowl much, but they've played 3 tests in a row. Harris Rauf has not played any cricket. He's going to be fresh. He's going to be ready to go. So.
Well, no, that is a fair point, and so will Tom Curran, I suppose. So yeah, it's going to be interesting either way.
Yeah.
2 very,
Yeah.
very good bowling lineups. Tom Curran at the death, I think, is be very, very interesting though. And then moving on to, I suppose, the thing that everyone likes, which is the predictions. So we'll start with who's going to win the first game, Joe. Who do you think is going to win tomorrow under the lights at Old Trafford?
Just because I think they will be more tired. Pakistan will be more tired. I'm gonna say England, because if you look down this lineup, Babar Azam played in the Test series, Rizwan played in the Test series, Shadab Khan played a part in the Test series, and then obviously they're going to rotate the bowlers, but they will still have players who are arguably more fatigued. So I'm going to say England, especially if the likes of Livingston and Mahmood play. Of course, their home ground, you can argue that plays an advantage, especially if Livingston gets going, Mahmood gets going, whatever. And I just think England's top order is just very, very strong, or top 6 or 7 is just super strong, even without the likes of, Roy, Stokes, Butler, Root, if he plays T20 cricket, which again is a different debate. But yeah, I'm going to say England.
Well, fair enough. I'm going to choose Pakistan, I think. Just make it fair, I think. We've seen the quality. They've got a fantastic bowling lineup. Babar Azam, again, all he needs to do is score 50 plus, and they're in pretty much total control, aren't they? So
yeah.
I'll go Pakistan. So we'll find out who's obviously going to be, who's got their prediction correct by tomorrow evening. But then moving on to the series as a whole, I suppose, Joe, and this is where we'll wrap up the preview show. Who do you think will win the series? Because it's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I was just checking the weather out before, and it's actually meant to rain on 2 of the days of the game. So I'm half tempted to say 1-1 and one's washed out, but that's a bit boring. So I'm actually going to say Pakistan. I just feel like, with Babar Azam at the top of the order, England's bowling attack isn't as experienced with the likes of Curran, Mahmood, as it could be. So I'm actually going to say Pakistan will win the series 2-1. I've already predicted England to obviously win the first T20. But yeah, it really is set to be a great series.
Yeah, 100%. As you've mentioned about the weather, if that does play a role, we'll say 1-1. If not, I actually agree with you. I think Pakistan will win the series because they've got just such a depth of talent. And when you think, we haven't even mentioned like Sarfraz, he's an absolute experienced campaigner, Wahab Riaz. And if they don't play Shaheen Shah and Naseem Shah, they can just come in at the flick of a switch. So, yeah, I think Pakistan will have too much for England in this particular series. But yeah, Joe, that pretty much wraps up the preview show. Do you have anything to just plug or promote before we wrap up?
Yeah, so firstly, I'll just promote our podcast again.
Of course.
So you can go and check out the County Cricket Podcast at, well, we're on Apple Podcasts now. So, feel free to go and give us a rating or a review. It, really boosts us up, and we really appreciate that. And you can also listen to my own podcast, the 22 Yards Cricket Podcast, at 22yards.podbean.com. So again, feel free to go and listen to that. And yeah, I really appreciate it. Well, thank you again for having me on, Aaron.
No problem, Joe. Of course, as always, it's an absolute pleasure. And yes, for anyone watching this at home, please do go check out the 22 Yards podcast and our brand new podcast, the County Cricket Podcast. It's definitely worth a listen. Please give us a rating and a review. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up today's preview show. For all those who have watched, thank you very much for tuning in. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please leave them down in the comments below and I'll go through them and answer them all. But thank you very much for watching. And as always, guys, enjoy the rest of your day.